Hello and welcome to God and Country. I hope you guys are doing well, and it's good to have Reed Cooley back in studio. And we have we've both of us have been just slammed the last couple of weeks. Reed's got all kind of things going on in his life, and then we've had a lot going on here in the Carr household, also at our church, and so we've not been together for 3 weeks. But Reed, it is good to be back in studio, and it's good to be back on God and Country.
Thank you, Dan. It's good to be here.
So Reed, I know you had a lot of new things happening in your life and a lot of good things. And of course, next week it is Christmas, and my children are ecstatic. They are looking forward to Christmas next week. Santa Claus is coming to town, and so they are looking forward to it. Reed, you have any special plans for Christmas?
Not really. It's going to be spent right here in Mississippi for the most part, just spending time with my family. Maybe I'm a procrastinator, but I haven't gotten ahead on my shopping or anything. Like, I haven't bought the first Christmas gift yet. And just as you said, we're not that far away. So nothing really special, just spending time with my family, but that's as special as it needs to be, right?
So tomorrow night at our church, or whenever you watch this, it could be tomorrow night or tonight or yesterday night, and about Wednesday night, and we're having a special presentation at our church. This past Sunday night we went Christmas caroling, and then we had a big Christmas party at the church. We did a big ornament exchange, and we really had a good time with that. Tomorrow night is geared more toward the children, and we are going to have Christmas presents for every child that comes. And then whenever they leave, we're going to make it snow. And so we're going to have snow coming down outside, for the children. And so we're really excited about that on Wednesday night. And then, of course, we'll have our annual Christmas Eve service, as we do every Christmas Eve. And we'll have it jam-packed, and with people coming from all over, for our Christmas Eve service. Christmas is one of my favorite times of the year. And, of course, we'll get to spend it with family on the 25th, and then of course we got family coming in, my side of the family, and then of course Jackie's side of the family. Thankfully, we don't have to travel for Christmas. We get to stay right here and enjoy all of our time here at home. And but I'm looking forward to Christmas. Reed, does your family have any special any special Christmas traditions?
Special Christmas traditions, I don't know about that, but for everybody's birthday, we do something called smutting. Have you ever heard of this?
I haven't.
So it's where whoever is the birthday person, they will get smut smeared, like from the fireplace, like smeared on their face. Then you take pictures with it and stuff like that. It was last year that one of my little cousin, he got me with smut, got it all over my face so badly that I thought I was going to get canceled for wearing blackface or something. It was just all over me. But Christmas traditions, we play a lot of games. I could have said that a minute ago. We play a lot of games. It's a different game every year. We tend to switch it up quite a bit. Usually games where different members of the family will compete for like $5 or $10 or $20 for playing for winning at some sort of game that someone looked up on Instagram or something like that. I do like how, we live in Mississippi, so you guys have to create your own snow. We're not lucky enough to get a whole lot of snow down here. But not really any traditions. How about yours?
We eat a lot.
You eat a lot? Okay.
Yeah. So I know my wife and her sisters and her mother, they'll get together and they'll do a lot of baking, and they'll make pecans, and they'll make these, just all kind of different treats and things like that. And so that's one of their big traditions for the family, as far as baking, which is good. And then, of course, eating. And then just the Christmas Eve service is really a tradition, I guess not for my whole family, but for my wife and my children, and then of course our church. And then so we'll have a good time with that. And then of course, just spending the time with the family is always fun.
So you go caroling every year?
We do. We went Christmas caroling this past Sunday night, and we went over to Azalea. It's a like a nursing home, and there was a good crowd there. And so we went there and did a lot of singing, and we probably sang 6 or 7 songs, and we had a couple specials as far as Christmas caroling. And man, it really just touched my heart, where they're singing, and there's a lot of elderly people there, many in their 90s, and some probably this will be their last Christmas, and to see them with their smiles on their face, listening, to the small children sing, and then tears running down their faces, and some of the elderly, see them raising their hands, and praising the Lord, and it was really heart touching, and I'm really really heart touching. But that is a tradition that we have, and we enjoy that. Another tradition that we have is on Christmas morning, I'll get my children, my wife will bake some biscuits. She'll make some biscuits and sausage, and we'll go around and find homeless on Christmas morning, and we'll feed a lot of homeless biscuits and sausage and give them something to drink, and that's always a fun time too, with the children. Then we come back and we'll open up gifts and we'll have a good time. But we're looking forward to it, and looking forward to Christmas, and looking forward to just spending the time with the family, and so it's exciting. So Reed, let's get into some topics right now. A hot topic that is happening, and man, everywhere I turn, I'm reading and I'm seeing things about these drones that are flying all over the place, and I've not seen or heard of any in Mississippi, at least not here over my address. Let me just go ahead and warn you that if you fly a drone over my house, whether you're government, whether it's your personal drone, it will probably get shot down if it's close enough. I have I'm a pretty good shot with my BB gun, and so I will probably shoot your drone down with my BB gun that I have. And so, but Reed, what is your take? What is your take with these drones? I mean, why hasn't, unless they're government, right? Unless they are the government flying these drones, then why hasn't the government shot them down? Or I see a lot of people complaining, and maybe someone has attempted to shoot them down. I see a lot of people complaining about them all over the place. Why haven't people shot them down? I mean, are they flying that high in the sky and they're that far away? I mean, Reed, what is your take to these drones?
Well, I've kept up with this one quite a bit, but I still don't know really what to make of the drones, and I don't think that any ordinary person out there does either. I think that a lot of crazy theories have been flying around. I don't want to contribute to any of that. But did you see where the CEO of Saxon Technologies, it's a drone manufacturer, he actually issued a pretty interesting theory that I found to be the most compelling out of any. Did you see that footage by chance?
I did.
It was a TikTok that he shared.
Yes.
Yeah, he talked about how he thinks that there is actually a missing nuclear warhead somewhere here in the United States, and he thinks that the only reason these drones would be deployed at nighttime to fly this low would be not because they're looking for something visually necessarily. They're actually trying to detect radioactive material in order to find this nuclear warhead. So I hope that's not the Christmas surprise that we're all expecting. Surprise, there's a nuclear warhead. Have a Merry Christmas. But that is the most, I think, well put together theory or a bit of speculation that I've seen on this. I don't think they're aliens. I think a lot of people are saying they're probably aliens. No, I don't think that's the case. And I don't think it's a foreign government either. I just don't see that being the case.
I got to stop you real quick
Okay.
so about these aliens. Do you believe there's aliens out there?
Do I believe that there are aliens?
Do you believe there are aliens out there? Do you believe there are life
I
on other
believe
planets?
it is possible that there is life out there. I don't profess to know whether, in fact, there is or there isn't. But it is certainly possible that life exists beyond the Earth. But, I mean, we may never know that until we leave this world for the next.
That was a very good political answer.
That was just okay. I think that we will know the answer to that one day, but I think that it's possible. I mean, sure, it's possible.
Yeah. So I've got some good friends of mine, man, like close friends that that believe there are aliens, and some of these same people believe that the Earth is flat, right? And so they believe the Earth is flat, and then they believe there are aliens out there. I don't believe the Earth is flat, right? I mean, I just don't for a lot of reasons, but I also don't believe there are aliens out there.
Well, hold on. No, let's add some nuance, a much needed nuance to this discussion. So astronomy is my favorite branch of science. I have read about this topic extensively. To believe that it's possible that there are aliens somewhere in the universe is a very different belief than this idea that to believe that, well, UFOs are coming down and crash landing in New Mexico and they're hovering over Nebraska and creating crop circles. Those are very different positions. To believe that it's
Correct.
possible
I agree.
is a very different thing than to believe that they're here constantly, that they're in our midst or whatever.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I agree with you. And a lot of this stuff, this is just personal opinion. Whenever you're talking about some of these UFO flying type objects that are out there, I do believe that our government, our military, is so far advanced that there are some technology that we have whenever it comes to some of these planes, some of these flying objects, that it's military. I think it's military is what I think. And same with these drones. My opinion on the drones is that it's military. And so that's just my opinion about the drones. They're military. It has something to do with military, maybe looking for this radioactive, nuclear warhead. And how in the world, I mean,
how do you lose a
how do
nuke?
you lose a nuclear warhead for crying out loud? Good night. Here in America. Now, I know that in a lot of these places and in the countries where World War II, where there was a lot of bombs dropped, that if they're going to go in and do an excavation, or they're going to go in and build a house, and they're going to have to dig deep holes, they have to go in with a bomb squad first and do some searching for bombs, because there's some warheads or some bombs that had hit that didn't blow up. And so they do have to do something. I understand that. But when here have we had nuclear bombs, that got lost?
A government that misplaces a nuclear warhead is either far more mischievous than we recognize, or just ridiculously incompetent.
And if there was ever going to be a government that was going to lose a warhead, it would be Joe Biden.
Yeah.
It would be him, and Kamala Harris.
Well, there was a joke Cat Williams made years ago in one of his stand-up routines. This was whenever John McCain was running against Barack Obama. So this is way back in 2008. He was making jokes about the possibility of John McCain becoming president. He said, "What's John McCain going to do? Lose the army?" But it looks like that's exactly what's happened under Joe Biden. Comedy has, in a sense, become reality.
I mean, losing a warhead, a nuclear bomb, for crying out loud.
That's the one thing you would expect your government never to do.
Yes. I mean, great day in the morning. We're talking about something that could wipe out, millions of people. It could kill millions of people. And so just hearing that is mind-boggling. And I hate to even say it, and I hope there's no truth to it. But when you look at Joe Biden and you look at Kamala Harris and you look at the White House and you look at who's running, some of this military operations, from the White House that Joe Biden has appointed, I could see him losing a warhead. I could see him losing more than one. I mean, I can see him losing a lot of stuff. But it's just incredible. But I will say this, that if I see a drone flying over my house, I live real close to an airport. There's a private airport literally right across the street from my house. And you have to fly over my house to get to the runway. I mean, it's my house, the way that the runway is, the way that my house is. You fly right over my house, and it's so close. It's literally right across the street, that it is so close that you could wave to the people in the plane. I mean, you can see them. I mean, it is that close. I could hit them with a football. If I wanted to, I could throw a football and hit them. I could hit them with a baseball. And so if they're that close that you can see them that well, listen, if it's a drone flying over my house, if it's a small drone, I'm going to get my shotgun and I'm going to try to shoot it out of the sky. That's just what I'm going to do. And if it's far away, and if it's a drone and it's hovering over my house, like they're being mischievous, taking pictures. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm just not going to let drones fly over my house. I'm going to be very protective of my property, very protective of my family. And so I don't want drones flying over my house. I know that in some neighborhoods, they've had issues with people flying drones, and especially like you have a swimming pool and a lady's out and she's laying out in her bathing suit and they're laying out and there she is in her backyard by her pool, privacy fence, and just relaxing and enjoying herself. And then all of a sudden this drone comes flying in her yard, and overing and taking pictures and videos of her. That is not good. And so, I mean, and the way these drones are today, I mean, they take very good videos, very good pictures. And so I don't want anyone flying a drone over my house, my home, taking pictures, taking videos, and see what's happening, what's going on.
If you don't want to get shot out of the sky, don't spy on Dan Carr while he's in his bathing suit.
Yeah, that's right. Because, I'll have on my Bermuda shorts and, and so, that's not, I don't have a privacy fence. I don't have a swimming pool. And so, but I would hate to shoot your drone out of the sky. And so I know I have some friends who have some very sweet drones that can go a long ways away, and they can fly them way high in the sky, and they use them for work, and they use them for a lot of different reasons. And drones can be used, for in a very good way. I know that whenever the hurricane hit in the Carolinas, that they were using drones, to find people, flying these drones around and looking and finding people. I know that There was a missing child out in the Gulf, not too long ago, and they were using drones, to fly and to look for this child. And I don't, and they never found the child, but they were flying and trying to find the child with the drones. And so drones can be used for a very good thing. People take pictures. People use these drones for lots of different reasons, but spying on people is not something that the drones are to be doing, and especially whenever it comes to our military, they definitely don't need to be using drones spying on United States of American citizens. And so, do you think that Reed? Do you think that there's a possibility that these drones could be our military spying on Americans?
So, I think it's the U.S. military, to be clear. It doesn't really make sense to me that these drones would be used to spy on us, because they have ways of spying on us already that we implicitly accept. So the very devices that we're using right now, and the devices that we have around us, so things that aren't necessarily on the screen, like your phone, my phone, the TVs that you have in your house, so on and so forth. They have so many other ways of spying on us, collecting data, monitoring our social media activity, really building profiles on what kind of people we are, so that they can control us better. It just seems to me like, for the purpose of espionage, the drones would be a really unnecessary measure to take, because they can get all the data they want on us elsewise.
Yeah, I agree. But whenever you talk about data and you talk about government spying, data is very important information, and data is very expensive. It's very expensive. And what people don't realize and understand is just how much information there is out there about them. I mean, there is so much information. That's why whenever you get on your phone, you can get on Facebook or Instagram, you can be scrolling, and you'll see ads for things. And you'll see ads for things that you've had conversations about. You'll see ads for things that you've been searching for on Google. You will see all of these ads, and all of that is data that these companies have been, these AI-generated software, these companies are gathering on you, and they are using that data, to, one, they're using it to sell. They'll take that data and they'll sell it to a company, or two, they'll use that data to advertise to you. And so you'll be on your phone scrolling, and you just got through talking to your wife about taking a cruise, down to Mexico, and all of a sudden you're on Facebook and you're seeing, and I'll see one tonight, you watch, and there'll be an advertisement for Facebook. My son started playing baseball. Now, listen, this is crazy. My son started playing baseball. So my son and I started having conversations about baseball and about going to a pitching camp and going to a baseball camp. And so we're down at the baseball field and we're hitting baseballs and we're throwing the baseball and we're talking about baseballs. And I go to Academy and I bought him a baseball bat. And so we're talking. I get home, I get on Facebook, and I'm scrolling social media and Reed, I kid you not, I promise you, do you know one of the first things that I saw on Facebook was an ad for a pitching baseball camp?
I'm not even a little bit surprised.
And you know what I did? I signed him up. So,
all right. So the ad worked.
Yes, it did, and it's right here in Biloxi, And so the pitcher pitches for the Kansas City Royals, and so he's doing a pitching camp. He's from Gulfport, and he's doing a pitching camp in Biloxi, and so I signed him up for it. And so, yes, this stuff that's what they do. That's what they do with this data. I mean, there's companies that make millions of dollars every single year from your data. And so it's important for you to understand, and I know we talk about the government spying on people. And whenever Mark Zuckerberg, when them boys came up with Facebook, the government for years was trying to figure out ways to get all of this information. Don't you know that whenever Zuckerberg put Facebook out, you go to Facebook and you put in your name, you put in your birthday, you put in your anniversaries, you put in your hobbies, you put in things you like, you put in information where you're going, you put in information how you're feeling. You can be mad, irritated, glad, happy. I mean, you're putting all of this information in Facebook, and they have all the information that they possibly need, from Facebook. And so don't you know that they were super excited whenever Zuckerberg came up with Facebook? Something that the government was trying to do for a long time was to gather a lot of information on its citizens. Now we just freely give it to them.
The government didn't need to extract this data from people because they gave it voluntarily.
Absolutely. And so we give them all the information that they want. And so we tell them everything about our life. We tell everybody everything. And I'm a very private person. I post a lot of stuff on Facebook, and but I'm very private. I mean, I put a lot of different things on social media, my website, things like that. But I'm very private about things as far as my personal life. I don't like to put a lot of information out there about my personal life. I like to keep that, personal. And so, like, if my wife and I get into an argument, I don't put that on social media, right? If Reed makes me mad and we get into a knockdown, drag out fight, I'm not going to put that on social media. And I'm very private.
We might put that on God and Country, though, right?
We talk about it here. And so, but I don't put it on, social media. And so, but man, people today, man, they'll tell you everything you want to know about their personal life. They'll tell you everything, and too much information sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah, totally agree.
So our government, man, we make it easy for them with it. What was it? The first one was called what? MySpace. So you had MySpace.
It was MySpace, yeah.
And I didn't have a MySpace because my dad wouldn't let me get one, so I didn't have a MySpace. And then you had Facebook, and then there was Instagram, then Twitter, then there's
too many to name nowadays.
There's a lot of them, like My Truth.
Truth Social.
Truth Social. Parler. Is Parler one?
Yeah, Parler's back now.
Yeah, YouTube. And then you had Rumble.
Rumble, yep.
There's all kind of stuff out there, man. And we just put out this information. Like here you go. Here's free.
People will sacrifice a lot of their liberty, not necessarily for the sake of security, but for the sake of convenience. And people really do make that critical mistake. It's not always an exchange of security for liberty. Sometimes people are exchanging liberty just to make their lives a little bit easier, a little bit more convenient, or to keep up with the latest fad. That's not to be underestimated.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, our government knows way too much about us. A lot of it we give out freely. There was an article today in Ocean Springs to where the city council, the mayor, and some of them didn't realize what was happening with these cameras, but they put these cameras on these red lights and stop signs and all over the city, and it's recording people, and it's like an AI tracking, and it's tracking people's movements and knowing where people are going, and if you dive deep into this thing, it's like it's trying to predict whether or not somebody's going to commit some kind of crime. It's almost like some kind of futuristic TV show is almost what it sounds like. And so you have to be very careful. And that's one reason why, Reed, we push so hard about people being involved and people being engaged and know what's happening in their communities. Know what your board of aldermen are voting on. Know what your city council is voting on. Know what's happening, in your capitals. Get engaged, get involved. And because every single day that we're not involved and every single day that we're not engaged, we are sacrificing our liberties. We are sacrificing our freedoms. And I get it. We do get busy, right? Reed and I have been so busy, we haven't been able to connect together, for 3 weeks for a show here on God and Country. But we're back together now. But I get it. People are so busy today that we are forfeiting a lot of our freedoms because we're busy. And at some point, we have to take time to know what's happening in our cities, know what's happening in our counties, know what's happening in our capital cities. Know what's going on in your neighborhood, in your backyard. It's very, very important that we know what's happening. Reed, in January, you're going to have every single city around, and I know Mississippi, you're going to have a lot of people announcing they're going to be running for mayor. They're going to be running for city council. They're going to be running for alderman. All of those elections are up next year. I think about the coast. You have, if you go all the way over in Harrison County, you start at the Harrison County line, you have Pass Christian, then you have Long Beach, and then you come to Gulfport, then you come to Biloxi, and then north of Biloxi you have D'Iberville, and then you go across the bridge, Ocean Springs, then you have Goshen, you have Pascagoula, you have Moss Point, and then on the other side you have Bay St. Louis. You have all of these cities on the coast, and they're going to have mayor races, they're going to have council races, alderman races, and all up and down Mississippi. And let me just encourage you right now to get involved and know what's happening and know what's going on. There's a good opportunity to get rid of a lot of tyrants come April 1st, because that's when the election is. It's April 1st. There's an opportunity to get rid of a lot of tyrants if you and I will be involved and we will be engaged. Some of these races can be won with as little as 200 votes. Some of these races can be won with as little as 300 votes. There are cities that we can change the entire direction of a city with less than 1,500 votes if we just get people involved and get people engaged. And so it's so very important. I cannot tell you, I've met with a lot of candidates over the last month, a lot of candidates all up and down this coast that's going to be running for office in 2025. And I am excited and can't wait to see some of these people win, because I think there's going to be a slew of them win. And I think it's going to be great for the coast. I think it's going to be great for these cities whenever it comes to these elections. And if you and I as Christians and as conservatives will get involved, but we can flip some of these cities upside down. And so I think it's so important, Reed, that we are involved and we are engaged in what's happening and in the process of what's going on and happening and taking place.
Well, what you just said reminds me. Do you know what my first campaign that I worked on was? Was that Glenn Jacobs up in Knox County, Tennessee. He was running for county mayor. So you know who Glenn Jacobs is, right? Mm-mm. So Glenn Jacobs plays Kane on the WWE. Well, this man, who is a WWE superstar and has been for decades now, he's a liberty Republican. He's not just a Republican. He's one of the good kind of Republicans. He's a Republican in the same vein as me and you, for example. My very first campaign I ever worked on was his campaign for county mayor in Knox County, Tennessee, which is the county that has Knoxville in it. So I spent 7 weeks knocking doors. Okay, that was my job. I was knocking doors. I was doing phone calls. I was just canvassing. That was my job. Out of about 45,000 ballots cast, you know how many votes put Glenn Jacobs over the top to make him the Republican nominee?
How many?
23 votes.
Wow.
Out of 45,000 ballots cast, Glenn Jacobs won that election, won that primary by 23 votes.
Wow.
That is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percentage. And ever since then, that was my first campaign, once again. And ever since then, I have never even once accepted this idea that getting engaged in the political arena, that knocking on doors, making phone calls, whatever it takes, doesn't matter. I don't listen to the cynics. I don't listen to the idiots who say, well, politics doesn't matter. None of it really matters. Government is just there, but it doesn't really affect my life. You need to forget all about that.
Absolutely.
Because just like you very well put, getting involved, getting engaged, you can change the direction of an entire city, of an entire community, of a person's life dramatically.
Absolutely. That's incredible that 45,000 votes were cast. And you said how many votes?
23 ballots. Had we not knocked doors for one day, had we slacked just one day, not gotten out there, beat the pavement, earned those votes, Glenn Jacobs might not have been county mayor.
Wow. And so the qualifying deadline it goes from January 3rd to January 30th. And so then you have from January, February, March. Election is April 1st. So you're talking about 3 months, January, February, March. You're talking about wards and council seats that are less than 400 or 500 votes, you know. And so you're looking at 250 to 300 votes in some of these cities that can win a race. And so you could talk to that many people 4 or 5 times in a matter of 3 months. And so if you just get involved, like Reed is talking about, get involved, get engaged, we can change a lot of cities. And the direction of a lot of cities can be changed if we just get involved and get to work. And so know what's happening, know what's going on. And if you'll do that, then you can change the course of a city. You can change the course of somebody's life if you just get involved and get engaged. So many times people think, well, you know, I'm wasting my time. Listen, I mention this all the time. I don't want to show you this. So that right there, whenever you see your vote counts, and I want you to look at that again, because your vote does count. And whenever you look at your vote counts, your work counts, everything that you're doing for people, everything that you're doing, you know, for these cities, it counts. Now, the left and some people in the Republican Party want you to think that your vote doesn't matter or your vote doesn't count because they don't want you to work, because they want to keep doing the same old. No, we've got to get out there and we've got to work. And if we work and if we give it everything we have, we will win some of these elections. That's incredible. That 45,000 votes and it was only a 23 vote difference.
Correct. And if you're in an urban area or maybe even many suburban areas, there's no reason why you can't knock 100 doors a day. Like, that sounds daunting. I know, like knocking 100 doors in a day, that sounds tough. That sounds really tough. I can promise you that it's not. So, like I said, had we slacked off for just one day, maybe even a few hours less, had we worked just a little bit less, maybe even by a few hours, Glenn Jacobs would not have become the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. And that county would have taken a dramatically different direction.
Yeah, and so when you think about that, go ahead and come down to now there's going to be there will be some cities like Jackson, potentially could have 45,000 votes. But in these alderman races, like I've been researching a lot of alderman races here on the coast in a lot of these cities, and there's a ton of them where they didn't even have 300 people vote in the Republican primary 3 or 4 years ago. And so you can win that primary with 250 votes. And so if you just get involved and get engaged in with your local conservatives, we can win some of these races. And so don't think that you can't, because we can. I have looked at probably in the last month, 2 months, I have looked at probably on the coast, maybe 15 or so different council or wards, and most all of them can be won with less than 250 votes.
Amazing.
That's how small it is. And so you have to be involved, you have to be engaged, and if you'll do that, then you can win. You can win, and we can win big. We can win a lot of these races because most of these cities here are going to be won in the primary, right? Whether it's Republican or Democrat. Most like they're in Gulfport, there's a ward that is going to be won. There's 2 wards in Gulfport that are going to be Democrat, and they're going to be won in the primary. The other seats in Gulfport are going to be won on primary day. In Long Beach, every one of the seats, the mayor race is won on primary day. Ocean Springs, every one of them but one will be won on primary day, except even the Democrat. I mean, all of them will be. Even the Democrat will be won on primary day. Even the mayor race will be won on primary day. Biloxi, every one of the races will be won on primary day. And so Gulfport, pretty much, the mayor race, it could get tight, but the mayor, whoever wins Republican primary, will be the mayor of Gulfport. So every one of these seats, Pasco Cheyenne, that one's going to be tough. But I still think that most of Pasco Cheyenne, it'll be won on primary day. So all of these elections, yes, they have a general election. It'll be June or July. I think it's June 30th. So primary is April 1st. Then the other election is 2 months away. But all of these elections will be won on primary day. And so all I'm saying is get involved now. So many times people think, well, I went to the polls and I voted for you, but you wasn't on the poll because they was in the primary. They lost in the primary. And if you had showed up and voted in the primary, then they potentially could have won. But so many people don't vote in the primary. And that's why the numbers are a lot different versus the general election versus the primary, is because a lot of people show up and vote for the general. A very small number shows up and votes in the primary. And so we've got to get out that message that to get to the polls and vote in the primaries, because 99% of these races will be decided on primary day. 99%. And so get to the polls on primary day.
Statistically, you only need to win about 7.5 to 8% of a given population in order to win an election in that area. So get this. A lot of people approach the question of getting elected with, well, I need to win 51% of this given population's support in order to get elected. That's not true. Okay, only about a third of the general population in almost any area is actually eligible to vote. Now, out of that, let's say 33%, they're split roughly 3 ways between Republicans, Democrats, and independents, right? We could put it that way. Okay, so your Republican voters, your Democratic voters are going to vote. Your Republican and Democrat voters are going to vote for whoever their nominee is in the general election, right? Mm-hmm. But whenever you break the numbers down even further, so let's say you need to win 50% plus 1 of all Republicans, okay, which is 1/3 of 30% of the general population. You only need to win about 7.5%, for example, of any given population. So you can win. You can actually get to govern. You can win an election and get to govern over a community or a county or a state by winning 8% or less of a given population. And don't tell me those numbers can't be won by getting out there, by stumping, by knocking doors, by putting out the right ads in, even by doing what we're doing right now. I'll tell you, Ever since Trump won, I don't want to hear anything else ever again about how media is stupid, podcasts are stupid. I don't want to hear any of that because I firmly believe in, and maybe you disagree, I firmly believe that if we didn't have Elon Musk and X on our side, that election result might have been incredibly different because as that voter fraud was becoming very evident in states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, where they were doing weird little things, it was on X where it was getting reported first. And it was on X where pressure was happening to knock this stuff out.
Absolutely.
The advantage of Elon Musk's X was not an advantage that we had in 2020,
Right.
which was a stolen election. So whenever it comes to podcasting, to being active, to being engaged in the digital arena, right?
Absolutely.
I firmly believe that it's not the main component, but it is definitely a key ingredient to enacting change culturally as well as getting the right people elected politically, like what you're talking about here.
I agree 100%. And I'm with you. I think that X played a major part in this election. And podcast and small and large podcast, played a major part because Fox, listen, look, Fox, MSNBC, CNN, all of those newscasts, Trump did not win because of those people. Trump won because of everyday citizens like you, Reed, like Jim, like myself, like, and of course, we're not on Rogan's level, but Rogan, all of these different podcasts, people were out talking every day. People had a microphone, and social media gives you a microphone. I saw a preacher post something the other day kind of knocking YouTube, and I thought to myself, that's very ignorant, that you would knock a platform. He's posting on Facebook, and he's getting on to people for asking people to subscribe to their YouTube channel. When the reality of it is, YouTube and X and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, all of these types of platforms are good platforms that we have. Yes, they cut down our algorithm. They cut it down so a lot of people don't see our stuff, which is aggravating. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't for these platforms, and if it wasn't for podcasts all over, and if it wasn't for people on Facebook and on YouTube and on Rumble and on all of these different platforms talking, I don't believe Trump would have won. I believe that Trump would have lost, and I believe we'd have been pulling our hair out again, and we'd have had another stolen election. But because of podcast and because of all of these people, we were able to win.
Well, it's like Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Do you remember? They had cut the early voting line short. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So it was early voting was supposed to continue until 5 o'clock on the last day, but the local officials tried to cut it short at 1 o'clock, and Trump was head and shoulders ahead of Kamala Harris.
Absolutely.
And early voting, that was 100% the reason why. If we had not had Elon Musk's X on our side,
Right.
podcasters and influencers and journalists ready to pounce on that, ready to contact that county government and say, knock it off.
Absolutely.
Once again, I think that would have been just one of many cases where the Democrats would have gotten away with stealing this election like they stole the last one. What you said a minute ago about the pastor, that does fascinate me quite a bit, though, because was the pastor by chance, there's this guy talking about, he was slamming YouTube, basically, criticizing other people.
Well, what he was saying was that
Okay.
pastors should not be asking people to subscribe to their YouTube channel.
Okay, so thank you for that. Was he basically just criticizing pastors for being self-aggrandizing or maybe misusing the faith or abusing the faith in order to fit their own ends, or was he going in a different direction with his
I
criticism?
think that he was going a different direction. I think
Okay.
he was, because if you're going to bash people for asking you to subscribe to YouTube, then don't be asking people to follow you on Facebook, right? Because what's the difference? Facebook, YouTube. I mean, I realize they have different formats, but it's still, you're still asking people to follow you on social media. I think it has a lot of different things. Maybe this gentleman was, and he's a great preacher. I love him. I love listening to him preach, but maybe he was taking a shot at Furtick or somebody like that, who's constantly asking people. And I can kind of see where he's coming from there.
Who did you just name?
Stephen Furtick.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I want as many people as possible to follow us on YouTube, right? I would love to have, wouldn't you like to have 2 million subscribers to God and Country on YouTube?
To me, it's a bit like building a digital church. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and so I think that having a large following on any platform is good. And I want people to follow. I want people to share. I want people to do all of those things because it helps get out our message. And you're right. If we didn't have these social media platforms, then I don't think we would have won on Election Day. Because then people say, well, God was the reason why we won. And I agree. Listen, I'm a preacher. I'm a Christian. I believe that God is in control. Absolutely. But God uses people. God uses people. Listen, I hate to tell y'all this, but God didn't vote on election day, right? He didn't come down and show his ID and vote. He didn't do that. He's in heaven. Now, the Holy Spirit is among all of us Christians, but God uses people. God
Someone
works
might
through
say
people.
that God voted on July the 13th whenever he kept that bullet from killing Donald Trump.
Yeah, God.
I've seen that as a meme, as a joke, more or less. I mean it in a joking manner, but I think there's a little bit of truth to it, perhaps.
When David killed Goliath, God used David to kill Goliath.
God could have struck Goliath with lightning right there, but he chose to work through David instead.
He worked through a man. David had to go get the rocks. He had to get the sling. He had to twirl it. He had to let it go. He killed the giant. God used David. God, I believe, is using Donald Trump. Whether you like him, whether you don't like him, it's irrelevant. God is using Donald Trump. God can use whoever he wants. You see, a lot of times we want to put God in a box. And we want to fit God in our little minute brain. And God is much bigger than that. God is much bigger than you. God is much bigger than me. And God can use whoever he wants, right? God is not chained to an idea that he can only use certain individuals. God can only use people that are perfect. God used, in the Bible, God used a donkey, right? I mean, God used a donkey in the Bible. And so God can use whoever he wants. And I'm just a vessel, Reed. I'm just a vessel. And I want to empty myself and let God use me in whatever way he wants to use me. And I believe God is using Donald Trump in a great and mighty way, which is important. I want to ask you a question. Let's get a little personal. Are you willing to let God use you? Some of you might be watching this show and you're thinking about running for office, and you're not willing to step out by faith. You're kind of staying back a little bit, and you're worried what people are going to think. You're worried about what people are going to say about you. And God wants to use you. Put yourself in a position so that God could use you. I like what a preacher said one time. He said, you know what made the miracle so great about Peter stepping out and walking on water? Was that Peter put himself in a position that he needed a miracle. You talk about July 13th, I believe that was a miracle. I believe that was a miracle from God. Ladies and gentlemen, put yourself in a position where God can use you. I believe that God uses God and country. If I didn't believe God was in it, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking about it. I wouldn't be spending, hours upon hours of our time talking about things that are important to Christians if I didn't think that God was going to use it. Because I think that God does use it, even if it's only with one person. Even if we just touch one person, to me it's worth it. I cannot tell you. Listen, there are some people that are about to run for office in 2025. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they're going to run for office who have been encouraged to run for office from either watching God and Country, or they've been encouraged to run for office from watching one of my podcasts. And they're going to run for office. There's a few of them that are about to run for office, and I'm excited about that. I can't wait, and we're going to help them and do all that we can to help them win. At the end of the day, put yourself in a position that God can use you. And so I think it's very, very important. Reed, there's one more thing that I want to talk about, running out of time, and that is these pardons. Every time a president is about to leave office, they do all of these pardons. And it's already started for Biden, right? I mean, he's already started, all of these pardons, pardoning all these people. And I mean, he pardoned his son. He pardoned this. And we're going to show a video here in a minute. Reed, before we show the video, explain a little bit about this Kids for Cash judge that Joe Biden just pardoned.
Right. So it was back in the early 2000s and the 2010s. There was a judge, Judge Michael Conahan, who was involved in a scheme that later became known the Kids for Cash scheme. And it was a part of this scheme where Judge Conahan was sending kids, teenagers to be more specific, to juvenile detention facilities in exchange for money under the table, often for minor drug-related offenses. So a teenager gets caught with a little bit of marijuana. That shouldn't be jail time necessarily. We can have that conversation separately. But this judge was sending kids to prison for very minor offenses, and it was later discovered that he was in fact accepting money under the table in order to do this. 2011, he was finally sentenced to federal prison. One of the teenagers, however, who was imprisoned over a minor drug-related offense, ended up later committing suicide because his life was completely and totally destroyed by this harsh prison sentence he got from Judge Michael Conahan. Well, that judge has been pardoned. He's one of the people who has received, or maybe it was a commutation. Regardless, he's a free man now because of Joe Biden, and that's utterly and absolutely despicable. The teenager's mother has come out numerous times and talked about how betrayed and how stabbed in the back that she and the rest of the boy's family feel as a result of this. But there's a crazy juxtaposition here that needs to be pointed out, and that's that whenever Trump was leaving office 4 years ago, he was commuting the sentences of people who deserved to be free. These were people who had received ridiculously harsh sentences for light sentences. But Joe Biden is pardoning the people who sent those people to prison for those ridiculously light offenses, right? So there's a yin-yang, there's such a dramatic juxtaposition here between the kind of the quality of the people that Donald Trump was setting free in his last days in office, end of his first term, and what Joe Biden's doing now, as if pardoning his son wasn't corrupt enough. He's going out of his way to do stuff like this. So it's utterly despicable, Dan.
Reed, I agree. I want to play this video. I want y'all to watch this video. This is the mother of the young boy that Reed was just talking about.
Sandy, tell us a little bit about when you saw that this judge, who was convicted for essentially sending kids to jail longer so that the prison, the private facilities could make more money. When you heard that Joe Biden pardoned this guy, commuted this guy's sentence, what did you think?
I was actually working, so I was driving, and
Oh, this
my
is her
phone
mother talking.
started blowing up.
Or the young man's mother.
Everybody messaging me and calling me. I had no service for most of that day, so it kind of just hit me. I was filled with every kind of emotion, hurt, defeat. Now that I've had more time to process it, it's more of anger.
Yeah.
And just, a whole, it's just this is very deeply upsetting and personal.
I cannot imagine, Reed, how she feels.
Absolutely.
Judge puts her son in prison. He is found guilty of putting these children in prison to make money under the table. Her son commits suicide. You saw his tombstone. And then Joe Biden pardons him.
Why? Like, what incentive is there that we don't know about? Like, what's the attraction for Joe Biden to set somebody like that free?
I don't know. It's my mind cannot comprehend how I would feel if that was my child. And then this judge is going to now walk free. It's unbelievable. I cannot even comprehend. Bless this lady's heart. I cannot imagine how she feels right now. My heart hurts for her that this judge is going to walk around for the rest of his life free. Free. And a judge that will put teenagers and children in jail, for small crimes such as marijuana, to get cash under the table. He doesn't have a heart anyway. I mean, he probably feels no remorse. I mean, I don't want to get into all of that, but I could only imagine. I would be irate if it was my child. I would be beside myself. I would be throwing a fit. She seemed to have kept herself together pretty well. I would be throwing a fit, Reed, if it was me.
Absolutely. In a case like that, it just rattles, the most foundational trust that we have in the system, right?
Unbelievable.
I think that our criminal justice system, in many respects, is a joke nowadays. Anyway,
Yeah.
I see people who deserve to go to prison for the rest of their lives get several months, while people who shouldn't even be going to jail, sitting behind bars, are sitting there for years, just languishing away, right? So, I'm sure that woman and her family, I don't know this, but if I were them, my trust in the justice system and maybe the system as a whole would be completely and totally annihilated. If it's not already.
Unbelievable. And that just once again shows just how cold-hearted Joe Biden is and this administration is, and just how excited I am that January 20th is coming. It's going to be here before you know it. You're talking about just a short few weeks away, and we're going to get Donald Trump back in the White House. And so I can't wait. It can't get here quick enough. Reed, I've enjoyed this show, man. I know it's a different format, different setup. And we, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. But we're going to work out some little kinks with all of this and do maybe some trying some things. But we really appreciate you tuning in and watching.
I like
Reed,
this.
I've
Dan.
enjoyed
I'm
it.
more comfortable. I really
Are you?
know. I can sit back. I can relax a little bit. I can have a good conversation with you. I like this format. I guess we'll wait on some feedback from our audience to see. But I like the way that we did this show here tonight. I really do.
I've enjoyed it too, but I would like to change maybe some backdrop stuff. And
We could change that one episode today. Should we do the Trump dance like
We
play
could.
YMCA?
Absolutely.
as the episode concludes or something?
Absolutely. We should absolutely do that. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I really appreciate you watching and tuning in to God and Country. If you haven't already shared, I would encourage you to share, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching this on X, whether you're watching this on YouTube, Rumble, wherever you're watching Substack, please give us a share. It helps us whenever it comes to the algorithms. And social media does not like God and Country. And they don't like conservative news organizations. But help us get out our message. We appreciate you very much. We thank you. And we thank you for tuning in. Reed, any last words?
No, Dan, this was a fantastic episode. Once again, I'm glad to be back. God and Country is rocking and rolling again. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you. And may God continue to bless the great United States of America.